Welcome, Arthur.
G'day, Carly. How are you going?
Good. Welcome to our weekly Wednesday lives here on LinkedIn, and welcome to all of our listeners and people that are going to listen later after the broadcast as well. We were just talking about, what is really showing up for us lately and showing up for the leaders that we work with and teams that we work with, and accountability keeps popping up for me. Holding our people to account, how to hold our people to account, why don't we hold our people to account, and what are the benefits of holding people to account. And I just actually finished a weekly webinar that I run every Wednesday from 10 till 11 on different topics around leadership. And I was teaching them around coaching for higher performance. So how can leaders be a coaching leader? And, we can coach our staff all we like, but if we're not holding them accountable, then the jobs don't get done, the tasks don't get achieved, the goals don't get rewarded. So I'm really keen to hear your thoughts around why.
Such a meaty topic, Kylie. Such a meaty topic.
I know, and I must also add that we only ever allow ourselves 10 to 15 minutes, and I know that we could talk for hours on this.
Are you trying to hold me accountable to keep the time?
I'm holding you accountable, and I'm going to chop it off at 10 minutes. Unless you've got some really wise words to say, that is.
Oh, I'll try my best. What
do you think is the reasons? And I've asked this from hundreds of leaders, so I'm really keen to hear what you think are the reasons why leaders don't hold their people to account.
I'm going to call it out because they're embarrassed to admit they made the wrong decision originally, and so they avoid holding people to account. So it's such an interesting. There's a couple profiles, right? So there's an existing team that had a list of, let's say, goals to achieve, and then the business strategy changed, and then all of a sudden the KPIs have to change, and so you got to get an existing team over the line to embrace the new world, the change, the new KPIs. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain profile that requires a certain skill and process. Then there's the new entrant, the new employee that walks into the role, and they have to embrace their duties and their KPIs and their accountabilities. And then there's the non-performers, trying to make them accountable. There's three different profiles there, isn't there? So I'm not sure if we've got enough time today to talk about it, but it's such a good topic because I've recently gone through an experience where I kind of said to myself, you idiot, you should have been wiser when you decided to put this person on, because you had a doubt, you didn't listen to the doubt, and when it came time to hold them to account, they were like Teflon. Nothing could stick, so, and that just created let's call it a inevitable ending, but a lot of pain along the way. And so, I think the reasons to answer the question, why do people not hold people to account? It's number one, it would have to be that they kind of regretted the decision they originally made, and they don't want to go through the process of the performance management or the improvement plan. They just want to get to the end and be done with. And we all know that's not possible. So I think it's a bit of that as well. I don't want to go through the effort. The other one would probably is obviously the obvious one is the skill. So, what are the tools I need? How do I have those difficult conversations? What are the targets? How do I make that an experience where it's more and encouraging rather than loathing that conversation to have, or your team is like, oh, here we go again. Here comes the manager. He's going to come and ask for the numbers this week. And it just becomes a real tick the box kind of exchange where people just feel like they're just, passing in the numbers but not really understanding the fundamental things where they understand the connection of their effort to the work, the results of their work, and how that improves the customer or the consumer. how does the a happy consumer grow the business? You got to take them back to that psychology and actually explain to them, well, through achieving these goals, it's not about just achieving a number. It's actually what it does to the overall business, the strategic plan, our consumers. So there's got to be a stronger reason, or a reason for being, rather than just making a weekly exercise where you're just kind of handing in numbers. Quite tedious, and just over a while, after a while, it just becomes, I'd argue, maybe potentially even you might even get a bit of resentment in your business, where you just don't make it an exercise where people understand the why.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of things that pop up all the time for me when I'm talking to leaders or coaching leaders around accountability, and the first one is people don't like conflict. They don't want to rock the boat. People essentially want people to like them. So if I have to have some of these difficult conversations, then what's going to happen to our relationship? So if I just try and push it away, then I won't have to do it. But that doesn't breed respect, and it doesn't breed trust. And they're the two fundamentals of leadership. So that's one part of it. And the second part is what you touched on before around the how. So many people don't know how to do it. So if I just do it, what if I do it wrong? And then all of a sudden I've severed the relationship, or we have this awkward relationship, or worse still, we have an awkward conversation. Okay. There are so many benefits though to holding people accountable. It breeds responsibility. It allows people to take ownership. It allows people to feel connected to why they're doing what they're doing. And you touched on that, when we're setting up a goal or an action or whatever it is that they want to achieve, why is this important? How is this going to align to where we're really going as a business, or where you're going as a financial planner, or where the team is going? Explain the why. There's a process. There's a framework for accountability. So there are tools out there that will help leaders to have it. But I think the first step is making sure there's really clear expectations.
Yep.
Okay, clear expectations. The same as with habits. Habits aren't not created from lack of motivation, but lack of clarity. And I think the same applies when it comes to accountability. If you're going to get someone to do something, then be really clear with the expectations. What are you expecting? What are they expecting? Let's set some SMART goals. And we often talk about this as a coach, but so many people aren't specific with what someone's going to do. They don't consider how it's going to measure it, whether or not it's going to be achievable, and when it's going to happen. And then I think the final part of that is follow up and follow through. If you want someone to do something, or someone said they're going to want to do something because that's where they're going with their goals, then follow up and follow through. Like as a leader, I'm always saying to my staff, how'd you go? What are you doing? Is it working? Is there roadblocks? Can I support you in any way? This becomes a good conversation.
Yeah, and being decisive.
Yeah.
Because, when you're following up, you get a quick sense as to whether or not these people are even taking their obligations to the role and their accountabilities to the role seriously. Even though that you followed a process, you've taken them through the why. You've syndicated with them as to what these numbers should look like, and then you're following up, and then you're not getting a response, or you're not getting your reports on time. You're not getting the outcomes. Don't wait till 6 months.
Yeah, but what if you do? What if you do follow up? Then we get improved confidence, we get measured results, we get increased confidence. It improves the relationship you've got with your leader. It builds trust. So I'm often not just saying, what if you don't? But what would happen if you do?
Yeah. Well, and that's the point. And as you do, being decisive to make the hard calls is what I'm saying, as well, because you'd be able to see whether or not that individual is taking ownership of those objectives. But as you say, through that constant feedback and rapport, in most of the times it should result in positive outcomes. But as a leader, don't be indecisive as well. You got to make that call at some point.
And I think when you are having these conversations, it's got to be done with the right intention, isn't it? You know, you got to maintain your emotions. You got to park those. Okay, this is not an emotional conversation. Is your intention one of wanting to develop and grow and support your team? If it is, then this is a great conversation. It was really funny. I had a coaching session, and I've had quite a number of them that have brought this up recently. And you know, they've talked to me about, you know, oh, I'm sick of having the conversation. I don't want to have the conversation again. I've had the conversation. You know, why do I have to keep having the conversation? And I said, okay, so what do you think is the role of a leader? You know, and they come back and they say, you know, to support and to coach and to provide a vision and to communicate and to develop them. Okay, so what part of that leadership do you need to do? So I often find that they know what a leader is, but they still hate to have the conversation. But it's the role of the leader. So often I'm working with them around how do you change your mindset, that these are great conversations to have. This is an opportunity for you to be the leader that they need. Okay, when we go in and we think about these as bad conversations, then that's how we look at it. But actually, when I have to have a difficult conversation, I don't love it. I'm not going to sit here and say I love it, but I look at it as an opportunity to develop them, but also my skills.
Yeah. A similar story to the one that last week with my team, you know, and the turnaround that we had in the business. And it was really around realigning the goals of the business, you know, assigning, you know, various tasks and responsibilities to the individuals of the business. And, you know, when I holding to account is an interesting terminology where it feels like you're holding, you know, it's like a forceful. You're holding them to account. It should be really around them just being engaged and understanding the roles and the responsibilities and delivering, right? And that's those conversations are pleasant. Now, even if they may not be hitting the numbers straight away, but you can see a trend, you can see the improvement. They're great conversations, no doubt. And that turnaround was really around, you know, creating the accountabilities and having consequence. And so, without accountabilities and without consequence in the business, you can't grow. You got to have both. So consequence management, people also need to understand is, well, you know, if I don't deliver, if I'm not demonstrating that I'm accountable, at least that's the attitude thing. You know, being accountable is an attitude, and performance is a result of consistency and support over time. But it's got to start with an attitude. Like I accept my accountabilities. I'm trying my best, and they've got to demonstrate that. You don't got to come in there and hold someone to consequence if they're literally having a fair dink and go, right?
Absolutely.
And that's part of leadership. That's part of personal growth, personal development. But it's got to be the attitude. The attitude's got to be right. So it's got to start with that.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. You know, but to end on, one of the things that I think leaders need to do around this accountability is be consistent, but change our mindset, because this is an opportunity to help someone, grow someone, support someone in order for them to be the best that they can. So that's what our role of a leader is. And I relish that part of it. So thank you so much, Arthur, for your time. Love always chatting with you. And we miss Bram today. He's off doing some presenting, I think. So we've missed him today.
You've got to hand out some consequence management to Bram.
I'm sure he would have had a few things to add here as well. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week.
Thanks, Kylie. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.